Nothing But Nightwing, yes, with 2 T's. This is the title of a series for DC Go, which are a set of series set to be hosted on the DC Universe Infinite app. These series are set to target mobile users, so they're aiming at some different demographics and also using some cheekier marketing techniques, pun fully intended. One of the 3 titles launching fully in November of 2024, Nothing But Nightwing, garnered most of the attention, largely because the ad campaign has been centered around his rear. Funny joke or too much? What is this series actually about? Let's discuss. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and it's Nightwing booty time. That made me feel mildly uncomfortable to say. Which is a bit funny, because we've done an entire video on Nightwing's butt and the fascination with it, the evolution of the fandom discussion surrounding it, how some of that has bled into the comics itself, and how some of it is more from the creators on the outside. You have moments like Gail Simone's Nightwing Cake comment, or you have artists like Nicholas Scott who enjoy presenting Nightwing from the back first. So this isn't something that comes out of nowhere, and it is a popular either joke or thought in fandom that Nightwing has the best butt in the DC universe. Sorry to that blog cataloging Hal Jordan's butt. I guess he can have second place. However, the question that some have is using it as a launch site for the marketing push for a new series too much, or all in good fun, or is it exploitative? Mileage is going to vary, and there can be a lot of responses to that. We'll explore a few. Some may have the knee-jerk reaction of, this is a double standard. The idea of, why is Nothing But Nightwing fine, but if someone were to come up with an idea for, say, Power Girl with a series called Melons, that may cause a bit more of an uproar. The counter that some have to that is that it's because the histories are different, that what the gazes mean and their intent can be viewed through a different lens. In general, though some may feel that is not actually accurate. However, one thing that is clear is that there have been more examples one way than the other. So because of that, some feel it's okay to do this to Nightwing, but not to a female character, or that Nightwing is some kind of reclamation of the idea, a way to even the scales, or for some, if they're feeling particularly spiteful, a bit of vengeance. Now, some are always uncomfortable with Nightwing in particular in these scenarios, given the character's history of being assaulted, and it typically being downplayed or ignored. On the flip side, there's the why so serious crowd, those who feel that this is just a bit of a joke or an attempt at banter with the fandom, acknowledging the fact that this is something that's discussed there. So DC kind of winking and saying that they're aware of the discourse surrounding this, and trying to show that they're in on the joke too. Also, because this is trying to court a more online audience, perhaps it's thought that they may respond better to something like this. But how one first perceives this may impact whether they want to engage with the work or not. What do you think? Do you find it off-putting, funny, confusing? Where do you land? Share your thoughts down below. The author did actually respond to some of the concerns that were being raised. He stated, "Nightwing's my boy. There will be jokes, but he will never be a joke. Trust. People don't trust easy. Rule number 1, trust no one." But if one does decide to dive in, pun fully intended, what will they get? Time for recording, the first 2 chapters are up there to be examined, explored, read, perused. They're given a taste, a sample, the grocery store or drug dealer approach. And so far, it's not entirely like living inside a Big Sean song, although it did also ignite some more discussion, this around Nightwing's personality, not just his attributes. People having some questions about his characterization. We'll get there. There was also some confusion. The confusion for some was surrounding whether this was canon or not. Now, this series is not canon in terms of it being part of the main DC universe. These mobile outings tend to operate in their own kind of status quo, though they will pull some things from the main canon, though they won't necessarily reflect what's going on there at the time of release. So for example, in this series, Barbara is in her wheelchair, and that caused consternation or confusion for some. But this is doing its own thing. This series is written by Patrick R. Young, who also did the Red Hood Outlaws webtoon, and the art is by Moira Marco, and the colors are by Monica Cabina. The story does open on a butt joke, because there's a falling peach, and sometimes they're going to insert peaches in the dialogue box. So far, it's only happened a couple of times, but it's happened. We have here is Dick talking about how he's never really thought about what his clothes say about him or how they present him or anything like that. It also has a bit of him making fun of one of his past costumes, which is something that this series shares with Harley Quinn in Paradise, another of the DC Go series. That also took a jab at some of the earlier costuming. In that series, it was with the Eraser, making fun of his zoot suit, his classic look, in my opinion, an iconic look. And here, it's Dick making fun of the disco wing collar. May explain the collar on my old Nightwing costume. Yeesh. This is a mileage varies thing. For some, it's a laugh-long moment of, yeah, that was silly. For others, it comes across as shame at comics history, or a lack of willingness to embrace comics for all they are, or enjoy the fact that it can have some of these sillier aspects, or acknowledge that for some of these things have kind of come around and been a bit reclaimed by fandom or enjoyed more. Given this series' tone, it's most likely meant as an easy joke, but mileage will vary as to whether or not it lands. For me, yes, the collar was a lot, but long long live Disco Wing. These days I prioritize utility over making any sort of statement. I don't know, despite the spandex, I've never considered myself flashy. There is a reason that Dick is waxing poetic about this, and it's because he's an undercover model and he does a little turn on the catwalk. Bruce managed to get him into this, so there's a Nepo baby joke. It's because they're investigating the designer. There's claims that she's doing something nefarious, that the diamonds are bloody, that she did something to the people and the forest and destroyed it to get these diamonds.
You, it's almost your turn. How you feeling?
Peachy. Now it's from this moment in the story where those butt shots from the promos come from. They're from him walking down the catwalk, and it's both the comic and the people there oogling him. They're using their phones, they're zooming in, they're getting way too close. So that's where it's from. And the context is gonna make this a bit better for some. It's gonna recontextualize and it's part of the story, where for others it still may make them feel a bit uncomfortable because it's a bunch of people just zooming in and looking. I'm not used to having this many eyes on me as Dick Grayson, but I only have eyes for one person tonight, and she's about to make her move.
That little bit of sweat flying off him, why?
I know it's hot, like temperature-wise, but why add that? Now, Dick working as a model may be familiar to some, because following Infinite Crisis, after Dick did not die, after many of the writers were not allowed Dan Didio to do it, his status quo changed in the 1 year later storyline, which we've covered because that is the Tentatodd storyline, the one where Jason Todd mutates into a giant tentacle monster and then everybody just pretends it never happened. Jason had taken on Dick's mantle at that point, and Dick in this series for a while was a fashion model. He ends up modeling in a Nightwing costume and attacking Jason from the catwalk, so this is not the first modeling outing for Dick Grayson. But will it be the most memorable? We shall see. Now somehow, Dick is able to slip out of this show to pursue the villain. I guess he only had to do one turn or they were close to being done. He was really confident that this fight wouldn't take long. He's going after Honeysuckle. Honeysuckle is a deep cut. She's a character who debuted in Super Friends #1 in 1976 and was created by E. Nelson Bridwell and Rick Estrada. She was a sidekick to Poison Ivy. She was folded into the main DC universe, if not necessarily its main canon right away, in the Tim Seeley series Robins. That was the one that won the round robin vote one year. But she's not a character who's been overly utilized, even if she pops up here and there. She's appearing here with a bit of a redesign. Artist Moira Marco described her as the main villain for this episode or chapter, and he showcased his designs for her, detailing how he was trying to move her away a bit from Poison Ivy, and it was cool to see some of the variations. On choosing her character, the author stated, "Have loved the freedom DC has given us just play with any characters we want, big or small. Was toying with creating an original acolyte of Ivy, but when I found Honeysuckle, I knew had a chance here to have a little fun. Sorry boys, I'm just pulling your leg. Honeysuckle, acolyte of Poison Ivy, D-list territory. Oh, Honeysuckle, I see you're still in the bad puns phase of being a sidekick. Huh? Now I kind of want to arc as to how and why Poison Ivy abandoned having an acolyte. Don't worry, we've all been there. When I'm not only in the catwalk, I'm Nightwing, former Robin, current blue-eyed bad." They do have fun with the action in this fight. There are some kinetic moments, and they play with the aspect ratio. Looks like you're out of runway. See, classy puns and apt references are possible. Now the comic takes some time to state that Nightwing has one of his core traits, and that's the form of compassion, because he helps her up, he acknowledges that he knows why she's doing what she's doing. But then it does take it a tiny bit far, not in the fact that he helps her expose this fashion designer and she ends up getting arrested and they're able to show that she did indeed do some nefarious things to get the diamonds, but rather in the fact that he seems to let her go. She's only going to escalate. This will not be the last time. If anything worse happens, we know where to look. But that's not the point in this scene. It's that Dick's been headhunted. An agent has spotted him and wants him to work for him as a model. He said that he smiled too much and he wasn't the best, but he can make him a star. Also, the forest that was destroyed and the fund that's being there to try and help it, it's the Wolfman Forest Fund, which is perhaps a nod to the creator who moved Dick from Robin to Nightwing, Marv Wolfman, this back in the 80s during the Judas contract arc. It's this next part in chapter 1 where some of the discussion surrounding Nightwing's characterization is coming from. Now, a lot of this has been very lighthearted, but here some felt that this veered outside of being another universe into being outright mischaracterization of Dick. When Dick gets home, Barbara's there to break up with him. Stop, no Bruce, no tools. I don't want to just be Oracle and Nightwing. I need Dick Grayson too.
I'm here.
Outside of Robin and Nightwing, who are you? What are your hobbies?
Hobbies?
There will be a day when we cannot physically do this anymore. Then what will you be?
Yours?
I cannot be how you define your personality. Goodbye, Dick.
Do you need help?
You know I don't. What some are taking issue with is the idea that Dick has no personality or interest outside of being Nightwing. That of all the Bat children, that's not really accurate for him. While others argue it's not that far off, that's what you see him doing most of the time, or that maybe this just wants to play with that angle. However, for some, even if it's doing that, they feel that just the way he's coming across isn't the best. All that talk about kindness and compassion isn't really coming through in this part of the story. So for some, this makes Dick feel a bit OOC or out of character. Now, why this is happening is so that there's an impetus for him to accept this business card, to be headhunted. He does briefly discuss that his contact did mention missing models, but that's not presented as the key motivator, but a side one. Also, Marie McCabe was mentioned, so get ready for Vixen, maybe.
Not a person. What does that even mean? All this, all my work, and it's not good enough? I'm not good enough? Is she asking me to choose? I do so much for others. I would never ask her to change. She knew who I was when we started dating. I don't need to prove anything, not to her, not to anyone. I'm Nightwing, for Pete's sake.
He'll show her. He'll be a model. As a hobby, a professional model as a hobby. But note, outside of the peaches, the runway moment, and a panel while fighting resulting in one of the hostages saying he needs to get some pants like that, not everything was about butts. But does that continue? Episode 2 time. Dick is given an entire new skincare and makeup routine, to which he protests that he's not even 30. There are a lot of jokes that may land for people who are a bit familiar with the beauty industries or modeling scene or just some of that behind the scenes stuff. He also gets sent for some new hair, and that's going to be a bit of a reveal. Sadly, is not the ponytail. The return of the ponytail. I'm probably the only one who wants that. Now, one of the things that was brought up in the first chapter was the idea of missing models, but it wasn't given as anything urgent. However, what must be noted is that this is not one of the reasons that was shown for Nightwing accepting the contract, but now this issue is going to make it a bigger point. Because when he's complaining about all this modeling stuff and how it's not what he expected and maybe it's not for him, Donna brings it up. Have you at least gotten any information on the missing models?
No, I was so caught up in everyone's criticisms, I completely forgot to investigate.
This issue then also decides to try and tackle the whole Nightwing's being oogled and it's making him feel uncomfortable. And the approach it takes is that this happens to women, so Nightwing needs to deal with it. And also a bit of the vengeance angle. The how's that feel? How do you like them apples or peaches, I guess?
Today was insane. Do you know what it's like to have all those eyes on you, judging how I look, what I wear? It's like I didn't even exist. Like nothing I've ever experienced.
There are many ways one could question this, such as what about Bruce Wayne and the objectification he must face? I'm sure not every Gotham's hottest bachelor was wanted or solicited, and it's probably come up. There's also the Nightwing factor in the universe, and based on what they're pulling from, he's probably experienced it, but put that aside. In this universe, he's never experienced it.
Dude. Yeah, I heard it. Sorry.
At least now you know. I didn't ask to be on the cover of Super Hotties or whatever other gross rag people pay to see me or Power Girl in. But I get it's weird and uncomfortable. You're not gonna give up though, are you? So, did he ask for it when all those phones were zooming in as close as they could on his glutes? Perhaps the ask for phrasing is not the best given the scenario and context. Miles may vary. It's not necessary, but perhaps some light reworking may make the scene feel a bit more in keeping with their relationship and also get the point across. Because these characters are meant to be extremely close friends, and it's also shown that she understands that he kind of misspoke a little bit. Although for some this may entirely land because this is how some of these conversations play out. You may have seen exchanges like this or heard them or been part of them. But maybe just something a tiny bit gentler since the characters are meant to be friends. Something like it's different on this side of it, Dick, or it's not the most fun, is it? We didn't ask to be on the cover of Super Hotties since she's talking about this as a kind of equivocation for them. The idea that now he's understanding something that she may experience more often. Although again, then you do have to suspend the fact that this isn't happening to Nightwing in this universe. Would it be? I don't know. Based on how much it happens to him outside of it, it's hard to pull back and assume that it doesn't. Although, as mentioned for others, that may simply be a heck yes moment if they're really identifying with her standpoint and her positioning. Now, Donna is fighting another obscure villain here, Ding Dong Daddy, Triple D, who is also a deep cut. He's from the 60s, and he debuted in Teen Titans number 3 in 1966. They've also used him a little bit. He's popped up in an adaptation here and there as well. Now, Donna is another character who tells him that he needs to focus on something else outside of work and the breakup.
I mean, what else am I supposed to do? Crochet? Not that there's anything wrong with crocheting. Honestly, that actually sounds relaxing. Should I start crocheting?
Dick's next assignment is as an underwear model. This after much more dissing of his skin and his look. He's paired with the mysterious Camilla Martin, an expert female model who has never spoken and is able to sneak up on him, which he finds intriguing. Or rather, she hasn't spoken in front of her boss, and it's less a Cassandra Cain type deal because she is shown to speak to him a little later when he's having a hard time. She gives him a pep talk. In that way, she's nicer to him in this issue than Donna. I'm actually curious if she's meant to be a version of Camilla Ortin or Camilla Cameo, the mime. She's an obscure Bronze Age Batman villain who people thought was mute, but she wasn't. She just seldom spoke. The look is slightly similar, and the series has been pulling deep cuts. We shall see. Also, they dyed his hair blonde, which is why he's been wearing a toque. For most of the chapter, he's been going around with it. I think Americans call them beanies. Dick being blonde without his costume on just makes him look like an entirely different character. Also, this Fred from Scooby-Doo fit would be a major potential secret identity problem. The hair, that is, since Dick is a public figure about to get even more so, and Nightwing's costume has his hair out. Unless he's gluing that beanie on, a villain could rip it off.
Solution, black ponytail wig, maybe.
Now this issue ends on a pretty cool hook, in that Dick goes to thank her for sticking up for him and giving him some inspiration, and he finds that the photographer who was being so rude to him is tied up and missing a mouth. Which is interesting, perplexing. And that's where it is time of recording. Now this issue did have some butt puns, but didn't foreground the booty as much as it might have given the fact that this was an underwear shoot. Perhaps a wise choice after having Dick talk about how he was uncomfortable with the objectification, which is now something that is going to be there for the rest of this series because it's been placed there, that discussion is being had. Because this is having some serious moments alongside the comedy, so for some, that's gonna make this more or less easy to swallow. That's an interesting area to place the focus when there's the whole the models are missing thing, which hasn't been as foregrounded, because by the end of this he still didn't care about or look for those characters at all. This series so far, while it may not be intending to paint Nightwing as a joke, hasn't put him in the most flattering light. As well, he does have that kindness, or he's said to. He's being fairly self-absorbed, and despite the comics saying that his whole life is Nightwing, that he's obsessed like Batman, that's not playing out in his actions. Someone who couldn't turn it off would be looking for the models. He would have latched on to that little whispered sentence and been looking for him. That's why he would have accepted the card. And then that would have given more credence to Barbara's speech about the breakup that he can't stop. And then him accepting that role for that reason would have proved her right, and then the angle taken during Donna's whole try to enjoy it speech could have been reworked and landed better. And it would have been easier to incorporate his whole I've never experienced or thought about this aspect of it, which isn't a bad one, into the proceedings. It is something that does come up in discussions about this kind of thing, sometimes between male and female friends, that it's not something that they may have thought about. It's not the concept or the content, it's more the execution of it, the way it's implemented, especially given the character's relationship and the plot surrounding it. And all of this could still have a humorous edge to it, but beyond that, the main plot hasn't become fully connected yet. The threads 2 issues in are still a little dissonant. There is merit to building out a mystery, having a character think they're doing one thing or investigating something only to find out that there's something much bigger. However, chapter 1 laid down the models are missing tidbit. The beginning of chapter 2 made it into a he should have already been investigating them, then proceeds to veer back into Nightwing needs a hobby, and ended with an admittedly interesting hook, but not one that seems to tie back to anything. And these chapters are meant to be the you should sign up if you haven't signed up already for DC Universe Infinite in the countries where you can sign up for it, and then pay money and read and continue on. And so from that vantage point, it could be a bit tighter. There's a fun concept here, but the characterization of Nightwing, or the focus on objectifying him, or how they're discussing it, or any of the other things, the fact that it's on a different format, that has a bit of a different tone, it could be off-putting for some. So this is going to be something that could really land for some, really not. It could be meh. Because there are some who may find this thought-provoking, that they may not have thought about Nightwing in this light before. It may be new. Everybody's coming to things from different vantage points, different life experiences, different subject positionings, so mileage varies. The humor, of course, will vary. It's a mix. Situational humor, character lore-based humor, puns. This series loves a pun. There's also some visual gags, like that Mr. Freeze soda or beer that was in the fridge. Maybe Mr. Freeze reformed and he has a brand deal. That would be nice for him. So there's a lot to process, and it could change depending upon where the series goes, but we can look at what we have, time of recording, and I want to know, what do you think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? How do you feel it's handling everything? Did you meh it? Is it not for you? Do you just not want to read a comic on your phone? Your thoughts? I want to hear them. Please put them down below. While you're down there, please do all YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time today to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.